In Malta's airspace a few hours ago, asking permission to land in Malta. It was a Libyan Air Force plane, not Air Force, a Libyan commercial plane. It was turned away amid reports that it was carrying the daughter of Colonel Muammar Gaddafi. I think we've re-established contact with Cal. Cal, carry on. You were telling us.
Yeah, so at some point the ambassador here in Malta was actually brought in to start negotiations to help bring this thing to a close, to try to get the plane to land. Now, the government here was saying this is an unscheduled flight. It doesn't matter who's on board. The pilots were saying, well, this flight was supposed to come in yesterday. We're just coming today. The government said it doesn't matter. You've popped up on our radar. You cannot land. They diverted the plane back to Libya. So it seems clear at this point that Colonel Gaddafi is trying to get his family out of the country. The government here doesn't want to deal with the political ramifications of that, and they also don't want to set a precedent that just come here without notice. This is the major exit point for all foreign nationals, especially those from the European Union who are trying to flee the country. So again, we understand the plane circled for about 45 minutes. They said they were running low on fuel. They then announced we have Aisha Gaddafi on the plane. The ambassador was involved, but it was unable to land. We understand now it is headed back to Tripoli.
So let me just be clear on this, Cal. What you're saying is that the sources that you've been talking to, including the ambassador there, are saying that this was specifically a plane designed to bring Muammar Gaddafi's daughter to Libya because he wanted her out of the country.
Unclear if that's the reason that the plane was hanging. Initially, they said there are 14 people on board. They did not say that they had the daughter of Colonel Gaddafi. That came out later. Once the ambassador became involved, that's when the pilot said, okay, we have the daughter here on the plane. The government said it doesn't matter who's on the plane. You are not cleared to land. Unclear what the reasons are as to why she tried to come here, whether or not she was trying to flee the country for good. That is, we don't know. We just do not know that as of this point. But she tried to land. She was turned around. The plane, we understand, is on its way back to Libya now.
And can we conclude, Cal, that the Maltese government is going to refuse entry to all Libyan refugees from now on?
Well, I think that the reason, one of the reasons, certainly that they turned this plane around is they don't want to set that precedent. They want to keep a clear schedule because this is becoming the major, an island is a giant airfield basically, and it's being used as a giant airfield. It's the smallest European Union country, and it's becoming one of the most important European Union countries at this point because it's where all the expatriates from the European Union nations are coming. The government here is concentrating on that. They do not want to get dragged into the politics of this. There is a security concern. We've heard these Libyan ships are moving north towards Malta. The Italian government and military responded, putting their warships just south of here, about 45 miles to the south. So clearly they're setting up a naval blockade of sorts. And now we're basically hearing that they're not going to allow these Libyan planes to land unless they are a pre-planned flight plan when they've announced that they're coming ahead of time. This one did not do that. Whether or not that was because they had Colonel Gaddafi's daughter on board or not is unclear. But certainly they tried to land without warning. The government said no, turn around.
All right, Cal Perry, live in Valletta. Thanks very much indeed. Now, that's just the latest incident in the ongoing story of Libya's uprising. Here's Lawrence Lee with all the other developments of the day.
Muammar Gaddafi may have used his famous green book in his address to threaten protesters with death, but in the town of Tobruk, this is what they think of it. Here, the commander of the Libyan army has told AlJazeera that his forces are with the people, not Gaddafi.
I was with him in the past, but the situation has changed. He's a tyrant. I've heard him in his speech. We're not separate. We're not secessionists. We're not asking for separation.
Pictures like this serve to demonstrate the standoff that's now holding in Libya. The people of the uprising say victory will be theirs. Gaddafi remains immune to pressure.
I will not leave the country, and I will die as a martyr at the end.
Everywhere it's tense, the situation fluid. This is the town of Misrata in western Libya, which has reportedly fallen to the opposition. If these new pictures are accurate, then they would seem to bear that out, but the country remains split. This video purports to show the aftermath of fighting on the streets of Tripoli between pro- and anti-Gaddafi forces. It's been widely reported from the capital and Benghazi that gangs of yellow-hatted militia have been given free rein to move house to house in the hunt for the opposition. This, Gaddafi's address of Tuesday night, all his tactics have enraged even those who know him well.
He's using mercenaries, not because he wants to use them, because he cannot use the army. He cannot use the armed forces of Libya because they are Libyans and they are faithful and honest people. They will not kill themselves, because killing their cousins and uncles and friends, it means that they are killing themselves. So he doesn't trust them. He doesn't trust even his own guard.
What's beyond dispute is the chaos on the streets and the danger which protesters often run headlong into. Here, for instance, there seem to be snipers on the roof of the building opposite. There's a small crack, and a man goes down, shot in the groin. But while the international media is now beginning to find ways into Libya, interpreting the direction events are heading in remains as difficult for people in the country as it does for the outside world. The latest rumour, again unverifiable unless it happens, is that Gaddafi has threatened to blow up his oil pipelines, which would bring havoc to a country already beset by poverty and would have ramifications on oil prices across the world. If that's leading to an exodus of expatriates, then it's this kind of thing which is putting the fear into everybody. These people, whoever they were, tied up, blindfolded and executed. We were passed this picture by a fleeing migrant on the border with Egypt. After he filmed it, he ran. Lawrence Lee, Al Jazeera.
Well, as the crackdown continues, thousands of Libyans, many of them injured, are making their way to the border with Egypt, hoping for asylum. But for those who have already made it there, it's been bad news. So far, Egypt has only let a handful of Libyans into the country. Jamal Al-Shail reports from Saloum on the Egypt-Libya border.
Thousands have come through this crossing, fleeing the violence racking Libya. They've taken as much as they can carry: televisions, refrigerators and washing machines. They don't know when it will be safe for them to return. They also brought with them horrific tales of mercenaries, airstrikes and bloodshed.
We do not know where they're coming from. They're not Libyans. They're African mercenaries. They're shooting people randomly. These people are trying to protect themselves from these mercenaries in places like Tobruk, Benghazi, Al-Baida and Drana.
Mobile hospitals have been set up to help those injured in the violence. Ambulances wait to take people for treatment, although facilities here are basic at best. So far, only Egyptians have been let through and a handful of Libyans. Reports are thousands remain injured on the other side of the border. Volunteers and charities have organized several convoys. Some have already made it into Libya, bringing much-needed medical equipment. There is also a severe shortage of blood, so they're carrying thousands of liters with them too.
The administration of the medical affairs in Matruh supported us with a crew of physicians. We prepared the intensive care unit for any emergencies coming from Libya. The unit is ready for anything, even for open-heart surgery, and the army has prepared a hospital near the port.
Both those going in and coming out are calling for help from the international community. Many feel that the plight of the Libyan people is being deliberately ignored and want to see concrete action on the ground to bring an end to the bloodshed. Jamal Al-Shail, AlJazeera, Saloum on the Egypt-Libya border.
Now, Italy's foreign minister is reporting that he believes the death toll in Libya has now topped 1,000. Franco Frattini has also been warning of an exodus of immigrants of biblical proportions from the country.